What is it? So you've got a nice little definition here which says that the connected revolution is the economic and social transformation ignited in the opening decades of the 21st century, that's right now, caused by the merging of the digital and physical worlds through the development of mobile technologies. It's kind of long. What does that really mean? You can kind of think of it as just saying there's the Industrial Revolution, and this is the next one. And it's already begun. We're in the middle of it. I don't exactly know when it started, and historians would probably argue for many, many decades about when it actually started, just like they did with the Industrial Revolution. But the point is that we're in it, and it's moving at a very rapid speed. What are those forces that are driving it, or why is this come about now? Technology. So we've seen mobile technology, we've seen connectivity, we've seen the internet, we've seen the cloud. We've got all of this confluence of different forms of technologies that are actually being adopted by people. And people are using these things, and their behaviors are changing so fast and at such an unprecedented rate that it's fueling this kind of notion of this connected consumer, right? We've been talking a lot about similar notions throughout the day. And all of the data that this is producing. There's data being produced by consumers and people using all these devices. It's not just people using it, but it's also the machines, all the machines that are now being integrated with connected technologies, and all the data sets that are being produced by looking at what machines are doing. So then you get nice little stats like this, right, where 90% of the world's data is less than 2 years old. That's pretty cool. So you've got a confluence of all these factors coming together, technology, people, data, and boom, connected revolution. Why is this important? Well, this transformation is driving disruption across all industries and sectors. And we've actually stopped to look at the world so much as through industries and rather through physical environments. And if you look at a physical environment and the people within that environment and how they behave and how those behaviors are changing, that's where the stuff really starts to get interesting. So those 5 key for us are the self, the individual, the living room and the home, the connected car, retail store, and then hospital. And within those environments, right, businesses, whether large or startups or whoever they may be, are having to fundamentally reevaluate how they do business within those environments. So let's talk a little bit about platforms. What's a platform? A platform is technology which facilitates the transfer of value between 2 parties, or at least 2 parties. So you need one party, your producer user group, which is producing value, and then you need another party consuming that value. So naturally, we'll just call those producers and consumers. The technology sits in the middle. It facilitates that transaction to take place, that value to be exchanged. And what technologies, at least on the front end, are actually a part of a platform. So there are a lot of different ways that we've seen platforms manifest themselves. Here's one way to start evaluating some of that and breaking it down. We'll start at the bottom and then move to the top. So software, right? We've seen software platforms in Uber where your producer user groups are the drivers, right? And then your consumers are people that want to get driven around. Facebook, where people are developing apps on top of the Facebook platform, and now you can go use other apps leveraging the Facebook platform and all your data and profile and friends and all that good stuff. YouTube, where people are making content, they're making videos, whether it's a music video or user-generated video, but you've got this producer user group of people making video content, people consuming that video content over this platform. As we move up, let's go to operating system. You've got Android as a platform. People are building Android apps as producers, these software developers building apps for Android, consumers using Android, using those apps. The operating system, you can't just launch it on its own. You've got to go build some software, so you'll find that in order for me to go launch an operating system, I also have to put some software on there. I need to put your contact app, your calendar app, those core apps on the operating system to successfully launch that form of platform. Hardware. So the Xbox, the iPhone, not only am I making an operating system, not only am I making key core software apps, I'm building the hardware. This is kind of that fully integrated stack, right? All three layers, and I'm actually building that piece of hardware that the consumer is buying and holding in their hands or using in their living room to interact with. In this circumstance, they also appeal to a producer user group that are software developers and making apps for your iPhone or for your Xbox. So a few different types of platforms. You've got developer platforms, right? So we can think about types of platforms from the perspective of that producer user group that's creating value, because that's so important to this, right? Who are those producers that are creating value that my platform is facilitating to be consumed? So let me start looking at it from that perspective. We've talked about a number of developer platforms, the Xbox, Facebook, the iPhone, right? Digital content with YouTube. People are making digital videos, or iTunes where you're making a movie or music. Payments with money being exchanged going back and forth, or physical goods and services like an eBay marketplace or an Amazon marketplace where you're buying a physical good, or Uber or Airbnb, you're buying, Uber, you have got a physical driver or car. Airbnb, you're getting a place to stay. So you've got these different types of platforms that we can start looking at how we leverage the value that's being produced and having the platform facilitate that exchange. So that's a broad, overarching kind of definition of what they are. Let's dive a little bit deeper and look at some examples. The iPhone is an easy one. It was pretty successful, you could say. And when the iPhone first launched, it was a product, right? I had a phone, I had an operating system on it, had some core apps, so it was really cool to use. But it was a product, and they sold a bunch of these. And they had those core apps on there to make it a really good experience. And then, after about a year and a half, they launched the App Store. And they started to now appeal to this producer user group. And so they started to turn their product into a platform. They started to say, the iPhone is more than just a phone or this product that you buy. I am now nurturing this broader ecosystem that's built around my platform. And I am now appealing to all of these other third-party group, right? This producer user group of software developers to go build software to be consumed by the same people who've bought my product. And that's going to let me go and sell a bunch more of these things to a whole other wave of consumers, right? And then you can, now it's somewhat history, but right, then you've got your explosion of apps, App Store, a bunch of people buying iPhones, all that fun stuff. What are some companies that really haven't done a good job doing this? Nokia. You could probably just switch this photo out with BlackBerry. Pretty similar story. Huge market share, right? Deeply entrenched in the enterprise, making billions and billions of dollars. Now they're really not doing so well. And they sold a bunch of phones. They sold a bunch of products, but they weren't able to make that evolution into a platform. They weren't able to go and say, let me go and attract this producer user base of people to go make software for my platform. Google was, but not these guys. And there's a nice little quote here from the former Nokia CEO where he says, our competitors aren't taking our market share with devices. They're taking our market share with an entire ecosystem. That's how they beat them. And that's also why when Microsoft comes in with their Windows Phone and Windows 8 and billions of dollars of marketing, it's not just about building a great phone. Despite the billions and billions of dollars that Microsoft allocates to marketing funds, it's about building this broader ecosystem and turning that phone or those tablets into this platform. And that's very difficult. Another good example here, we can kind of do a little bit of a comparison, is within tablets. Amazon, Samsung, both making a form of tablet, both completely in a different positioning. Amazon is going after the platform. When you make an app on Android, you can run it on the Google Play Store, you can put it on your Samsung tablet or your HTC tablet or any of the other 20 OEM tablets. When you make an Android app for Amazon, you need to take that Android app, you need to customize it for the Amazon ecosystem. You need to put that in their Kindle store. You need to make that for their platform. And you hear a lot about how Samsung is kind of having this fear of commoditization, of being marginalized, because they don't have a platform. They have one component, one element of this ecosystem of Android tablet or Android and Android phones. They're constantly needing to search for other types of hardware to innovate and move into new product segments to keep expanding and to keep growing, because they're not able to overcome this risk of commoditization. Now, if you are the middleman and you own the platform, well, then you are able to overcome it. And one of the key ways that you do that is by maintaining that direct relationship with your customer, right? You know, Google keeps a direct relationship with you on your Android phone, not necessarily your hardware manufacturer of that phone or of that tablet. So we can dive a little bit deeper. Let's get into some platform economics. This is always fun, right? So good platforms are pretty stiff competition. Now, if you can get that first mover advantage, you probably will have some sort of a head start, or you probably have some initial traction that you'll be able to steal away from the next guy that's trying to go and build this ecosystem. But when you are competing against these platforms, right, speaking to this competitive scope point, you're not just competing with the product, going back to that Microsoft example. You're competing with the whole ecosystem. I need to come in here and build a great product, get consumers, get people buying my product, but I'm only going to be successful if I can go and nurture multiple user groups on either side of my platform and start appealing to this producer user group, whomever that may be. And that's a whole other scope of competition beyond just making a great product. And what you also find with this is that there's really only room for a few, 2, maybe 3 successful platforms in any ecosystem, right? You've got the iPhone, you've got Android phones, you've kind of got a third slot there, but it's fruitful, but it's very difficult to have 3 fully successful platforms in any ecosystem. So you got this element of winner take all, right? Where there's a lot of consolidation when a platform really comes to a dominant position. That's not to say that you can't still make money if you're not the platform, right? There are many examples of companies that are just playing a component of the ecosystem and make a lot of money, like Angry Birds, right? Or Samsung, right? They make billions of dollars off of their phone and tablet hardware lines, but they have this risk of commoditization, speaking to the advantages of being in the middle and being a platform. So a nice little tactic that you can do once you've reached some scale with platform and you've got some weight to throw around is how you're going to go about expanding. And now you've actually got a lot of options at your disposal. So you can pretty easily, or a lot more easily, go and link new products to your platform if you've got this ecosystem going, right? My ability to go and link new products into my ecosystem, get initial traction on those products, whether those products are complementary or functionally unrelated to what that core business is, matters, but it's not a determining factor. But we've talked about a couple of these companies today. Google's obviously pretty good at playing with platform models. We've talked about Amazon a lot today. Amazon builds platform on top of platform on top of platform. It's actually pretty remarkable, right? I've got my, my marketplace platform. Oh, I go start AWS. I turn AWS into a platform. I let people go and build software on top of the AWS APIs to give software to the people storing their data in AWS. You could start to see the same thing with instant video. You can start to see the same thing with a number of these product lines that these platform companies or platforms will take those products in-house, and then they can seek to go and build their own separate ecosystems on top of them, further strengthening the power of the overarching ecosystem. So let's start to move the conversation and make it a little bit more targeted and talk about it within the industry as to why we're all here. And we have a few examples here, right? You know, different products with platform potential inherent in them and what it is they're trying to do. Transforming how people interact with and understand pets, leveraging connectivity to interact and communicate in new ways. You've got PetNet here, which, you know, I don't know if everyone knows of them, but you can remotely manage, you know, the food that's being fed to your pet, how much is being fed, what does that mean, and get all that data and control it remotely. Kind of that integrated, connected hardware feeding system. FitBark, whistle activity monitor. I think there's something on the table here for another kind of form of, you know, connected sensor. Put it on your pet, track their fitness, track their activity. Put all that data up in the cloud, show it to me in an app, gives me cool insights, helps me make my pet more healthy, all those kinds of things. We've seen some similar examples to these, but not necessarily for pets. And these platforms are actually a little bit different than those lists that I provided before, because you'll see here in this Venn diagram, right, it's incorporating hardware, but you're not building an operating system. And when you start building an operating system, there are only a handful of companies in the world that can pull that off, and we all know their names. They're really big. But you can still go and build a platform with this connected hardware, and let's look at Nike, right? Their Fuel Band is hardware. It's got some firmware on it. It's kind of like a closed operating system, right? Software to help that hardware operate, put the data on your phone, all that stuff. And then they go build some core apps to say, look at all this great data and insights about your fuel score and your health and fitness and your friends and all that stuff, right? That software and hardware pairing to validate the beginnings of their platform, right? To validate selling, I think maybe over 2 million or definitely over 1 million Fuel Band devices today, and to start building that initial customer and consumer base, right? Last year, they launched, when they were between 1 to 2 million in units sold, an incubator. They brought 10 startups into this incubator, gave them 20 grand each, and said, "Hey, we've picked you out of all the submissions, and go build some innovative software on the beginnings of our platform." One built an app to like help you to track if you're doing a sit-up or a push-up, and had the technology to know with the accelerometer what you were doing, what exercise, and what that meant for your workout regimen. One said, hey, if you're going for a run, we'll pair you with charities or people that will sponsor charities and donate for your running activity. And it's kind of just harnessing the innovation by this third-party user group of producers and software developers, and putting the beginnings of their push to go and really get more and more software developers building on their platform. What's another example? Nest, which was just bought for $3.2 billion a few weeks ago. They had, last year they were probably selling around 40 to 50,000 of their connected thermostats per month at about $250 a pop. Last year they came out with their carbon monoxide, their second connected product in the home. And then Google snatched them up a few weeks ago for over $3 billion. They actually didn't even start appealing to a producer software developer community as strongly as Nike has. But Google can see the writing on the walls. Google can see the power of platform economics, the network effects that this will have within the home, and say, hey, look at all the customers that you're getting using this connected hardware. Look at all the data you're putting in your platform. Look at all the potential to go build this producer user base around that. And what's going to happen when you have another connected home product that isn't in the Nest now Google ecosystem? All right. How easy is it for you to go and build software for that if it's not in my bubble? Well, that's going to be up to Google to decide. But I tell you, it's going to be a lot easier if Google's doing it and it's in Google's way. So you can start to see similar things with, say, some of those product examples, right? Will one of those connected hardware products give you enough consumer traction to warrant you building a producer community around them? A software developer producer community is pretty hard to nurture. I don't know. You know, Nike did it. They're a big brand. Nest did not. They waited. They had 2 connected products, and then they were bought. Nike did it, but they've also got a lot of other things that Nest doesn't have. So it's that balance, right? But what is that balance? What is that connected product suite that you need to get enough consumer traction to start appealing to your producer base? Maybe it's not software developers. Maybe it's something else. But that's kind of how you play the game. So these things aren't easy. That's why they're worth billions of dollars. And one of the biggest things is, well, you got to create that frictionless experience, right? You got to nail that seamless experience, particularly in that initial product launch, to get that initial adoption. Otherwise, you're not really going to go anywhere. But you got this chicken and egg game, right? I need consumers to get producers and producers to get consumers, and this constant back and forth. It's a very delicate balance. And a very delicate balance, which you also now need to weigh with the quality of your ecosystem, the growth of your ecosystem, when you're going to monetize it, what's that going to do to your building this ecosystem. Lots of variables you need to balance while playing this broader chicken and egg game to nurture this ecosystem around your platform. Your digital brand, right? What does your brand mean through a digital and connected means as you connect with your customers and multiple other user groups, producer user groups? You probably may have a whole other business model user group, right? People that are paying you for ads or whoever that may be. And these things are expensive. There's a lot of competition, and there's no guarantee of success. So lots of challenges. It's not easy. But it's certainly a game that we see a lot of pretty successful companies playing right now. The good thing is that existing businesses, I think, actually have a head start than startups. Because you've got an established audience, you've got existing customer data. Oh yeah, and you've got this thing called your brand and all of this inherent brand equity. That gives trust. We've talked about trust a lot here today. That's very powerful stuff. That's powerful stuff if you want to go and sell your initial product. That's powerful stuff if you want to go build some form of a producer user base or whatever it may be. That lets you get out of the gate with a head start. And that's not something to be left forgotten. Oh, and you've also got money. And you can go invest that, assuming you've got the right business case and the right people behind it. You can figure out how to pay for it. Challenges. This is a completely different way of looking at success. The metrics that you are going to attach to whether or not this thing is successful are completely different than how you evaluate success today in your current business model. These are long-term investments, right? They don't necessarily fit the kind of quarterly earning reports of public companies and the usual flow of business as we look at returning an ROI on these investments. Culturally, these are very different to manifest and to execute appropriately. These are things that evolve very quickly, require extremely agile and iterative work to be done on them. And that means that you need to pull together a lot of things together and do them very quickly and release in a manner which is very different from a cultural perspective, from an operational perspective that you find in many large businesses. Okay, so now what? There are a couple of things here that you could do regardless of whether or not platforms are kind of what you're looking at doing. Personalization is important in every product, certainly if you're ever going to make a successful platform. Building a one-to-one relationship with your customer and every interaction that they have with you, particularly in a digital manner, is vitally important to this. Your ability to then execute upon doing that on the front end is extremely reliant upon the data infrastructure and the information architecture that you have on the back end. Those things go hand in hand. Thirdly, though, if you're actually to start looking at platforms, the easiest place to start is just looking at your customers. Who are my customers? What are their needs? I know them better than anyone else, so what do they want? But let me start looking at this data through a platform lens. Let me start looking at this data and all this innovation and all these things that we talk about with this common platform endpoint in mind, right? Because with that common endpoint in mind, it'll change, it'll move around, that's what endpoints do, but you need some common endpoint to navigate to. And then you can start to look at these insights and this data through different lenses that give you different meanings, and give you meanings that can help move you down this path. And then you can start to figure out, what product do I want to launch first? What series of products do I need to launch first to then turn into a platform? But that's that initial path. So if we look at the broad opportunity here, we have a few traditional businesses that have actually started to do this. I talked about Nike and the Fuel Band. And a few months ago, Under Armour, I think they started to see this. They've also really talked a lot about innovation for a long time, and they forked over $100 million to go buy MapMyFitness.com. And that is a form of a platform, but now they're starting to seek, how do I take this digital platform and leverage connected technology to integrate it into my existing business model, which is making apparel and shoes and all that stuff. Nike's done it with the Fuel Band, but they're now able to get into the game through an acquisition, as Nike's been dabbling with Fuel Band-esque technology for years and years and years. GE and their industrial internet, which I don't know how many of you have heard of, but they've got 700 engineers, or not necessarily all engineers, but 700 people in San Ramon, Texas. And they are working on incorporating connected technology into all of their machinery that GE built. And it's the beginnings of what will be their platform. Right now you can go and make software to look at how the machinery is functioning, control it remotely, all these things. Same story. Eventually they're going to go appeal to that producer community, get people building software apps on top of all their connected platform. And man, if I don't buy a GE machine and it's not in this now GE digital ecosystem, I don't know why I'm going to go buy that, because now I lose out on so much more than just the machine. I lose out on all of this other digital software connected value. So these are my first movers. There are a few other first movers that are in here but are really not that public about it yet. There's probably still a few slots left in the first mover bucket. But the big one that you can start looking at is the early adopters, right? There are companies that are doing this now that either we work with or other companies that I know are doing it that are going to start launching their products 2015, 2016. So over the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to start to see these things coming to market. And that's kind of that next wave of early adopter that's coming in. So this is a very exciting time. This has helped shape our thinking at Applico, and well, it's really exciting for us because we're a service company and we help our clients build platforms, so this spells a good future for us. But it's also exciting for all the product companies that need to go build products, whether you're a startup, whether you're a large business, whether you're a Google. Lots of opportunity to go and build products that are turning into platforms. Whether you're from a finance perspective, right, and you want to start financing innovation, maybe not in a large business, it doesn't work that well because you've got a lot of money, but you're starting to see more and more traction from VC communities, potentially private equity communities, that are starting to get involved and putting money to work to invest in platforms. Greylock, just a couple weeks ago, announced that they're allocating $100 million to invest solely in marketplace platforms. They hired a new partner, and he said, hey, over the next 5 years, we see more opportunities in marketplace businesses $1 billion marketplace opportunities than we've seen in the past 20 years. So that's pretty exciting. And it leaves us with this one last statement, because everyone would keep on asking me, Alex, what's the key connected revolution? Connected revolution. What do you need to do to be successful in the connected revolution? So we figured out the answer. And this is the sole thesis that Applico is focused on driving forward. And we're going to be doing this for a pretty long time. It's this. That in the connected revolution era, again, now, platforms are the key business model for success. Thank you. There's my email. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. This is all I do. So thank you.